Tony Khan is firing back at all the people criticizing AEW. I have my response coming up. Guys, more wrestling topics in this video as always. Look, we're going to jump into WWE because there was a logistical mess getting into the house shows this past weekend during the Christmas season. WWE superstars Bobby Lashley, Alexa Bliss, Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch. Yeah, they're no immune to the same battles that we face when harsh weather hits. They were unable to make the WWE live events this past weekend due to the harsh weather. And of course, this sucks. And it sucks for the wrestlers and it sucks for the fans. It sucks for a lot of people, especially when you consider Christmas gifts being given out. Typically, families do look to buy, live event tickets as Christmas gifts for their kids or whatever it may be. So, the reality is this. These people are just like every other people that exist, right? There's weather conditions. They can't control this stuff, man. They can't control this stuff. And I have seen a small percentage of social media, attack Seth Rollins or Becky or Bobby or Alexa, and they write these tweets about some harsh stuff about, them not showing up or whatever. But that's ridiculous. Nonetheless, I think, it's always an interesting thing when something like this happens, whenever there's this logistical mess due to weather conditions. And sometimes people ask me, especially in Discord, like, how would you fix this? If you were the WWE, how would you prevent this? And honestly, I don't know what it would be like trying to travel via plane, jet, things like that. I don't know. I don't know what the costs are associated with it. I'm assuming it's a very, very expensive logistical matter. But what I would say is if I were the WWE, I would maybe refrain from doing house show events so close to Christmas time. You know what I mean? I'm just being honest. There's no way in my head that I could think of to prevent this other than just by not planning the shows to begin with. I don't know if the live event business is making up a large percentage of WWE profits anyways. I understand why it's good for business. There's a reason why I think AEW and WWE should both be doing house shows. But I think there needs to be a little bit of a change there. Perhaps maybe just simply, scheduling them a little bit differently, not so close to the holidays. I don't know. I don't know if there's a solution to that, but that's just kind of my 2 cents on the matter. Very interestingly enough, Tony Khan is firing back at criticism, and I thought this was interesting. Let's take a look at the quote. Tony Khan says, the worst criticism, the fakest criticism, there was this criticism. People would question if there were storylines in the show. Are you shitting me? There are so many in every show. Out of 5 or 6 matches in a show, most of them will have those hooks. I gotta say, on next week's show, looking at it, every match will have a story going into it on Dynamite. And Tony Khan, you're not wrong. Your shows do have storylines. They absolutely do. But the thing is, there's something called momentum, and I feel like that's actually the realest and most precise criticism I can offer when it comes to watching AEW. I think AEW, and I've said this for a very long time, if you watch this channel since 2019, all the good, all the bad that I've ever said about WWE and AEW, the one thing I say quite often about AEW is how they handle momentum. And in the past, and more specifically the year of 2022, it wasn't about whether or not they had good storylines or bad storylines. It's the inability to keep the momentum while a story is hot. The fact is, you don't have enough TV time to get everybody on your roster. And I think the best way to move about this is by following up on a storyline every single week. It doesn't have to be a match. It doesn't have to be a promo. It could be video packages. It could be backstage interviews. But every single week, whatever story you're trying to tell, that you're trying to build properly, you can do different things to keep the story going and staying relevant. And there are stories that are happening in AEW television where sometimes there is no momentum. And guess what, my friends? This is a criticism that I've had a lot for WWE and Vince McMahon. Triple H does not do a million rematches like Vince McMahon did. And the reality is, Vince McMahon always did a rematch. That's not necessarily keeping the momentum hot. I mean, yes, he's telling the story every single week, but at the end of the day, it's just the constantly same thing, rematch, DQ, whatever. So we've seen some changes with Triple H and how he keeps up with the momentum. We've seen Tony Khan, in the past do that very well. But I think in 2022, it was not a good year for momentum. And I think there was a lot of things that got in Tony Khan's way. Of course, that's not, between the CM Punk injury, between all the injuries in general, Adam Cole, what we've seen transpire this year, it was a little bit of an unlucky year for AEW. But it doesn't change the fact that you have TV every single week. You can do something to continue the momentum of building the story. You know what I mean? I don't look at this as a fake criticism. I think a lot of people get confused by momentum and storytelling, and I think AEW tells stories. It's just they're not doing it on a consistent basis, and they're not doing it with continuity every single week. And I think that continues to have some fans outspoken about it. And realistically, I don't blame fans for being outspoken about it, because truth be told, you're watching a weekly episodic TV show to tune in next week to see what's happening with the storyline and what happened the previous week. And let's just face it, AEW has not done that consistently, and that's the criticism. And at the end of the day, Tony Khan is doing a great job of running AEW. They are successful. You'll never hear me say that they're not successful, but I just think the one thing that they can do really good at, but they're not doing it, is just keeping the momentum hot, and that's just the reality. Speaking of AEW, Eric Bischoff says he's not coming back. Very interesting stuff here. Eric Bischoff says his relationship with AEW is not good anymore. I'm not really shocked by this. You're probably not shocked by this. Eric Bischoff has been pretty critical of AEW in the past, and he's actually spoken about this with Chris Van Vliet. He spoke about a lot of topics with Chris Van Vliet, and I always love CVV interviews. I think he does a really good job of asking some great questions. But Bischoff, who has been very outspoken about AEW, pretty much knew when he kind of turned that switch and started, criticizing AEW. He kind of knew that he wasn't going to go back to AEW. And look, here's the thing. It's not like Eric Bischoff was an integral part of AEW programming. He's been used very sparingly in history with AEW. But it just goes to show you that him being outspoken pretty much has essentially costed him his opportunity to continue doing stuff on television with them. Now, with that being said, I always say in the wrestling business, and I think everybody says this, never say never. Maybe Eric Bischoff criticizing AEW could actually lead to a storyline. It could lead to quite a few things. So the reality is this. Eric Bischoff, not an integral part of AEW, never was a big part of AEW. He was seen on AEW quite a few times. Then he started to criticize AEW. He's not going back to AEW. Guys, if you want to make money, there is some money there, right? Controversy creates cash. So, look, there's a lot of opportunities there. I think AEW is actually going to have a really big 2023. I think Tony Khan is aware, despite what he says on Grab City and these other podcasts and everything like that, I think he is aware that 2022, in terms of, consistency and great storytelling, I think he understands that 2022 wasn't as great as 2021. I can't speak for the guy. If he doesn't see it, I don't know what to say. But 2021, you brought in Danielson, Punk, Adam Cole, you had these big, massive shows, you had these big, massive storylines. 2022 really wasn't like that. I would hope that Tony Khan understands that there's a lot of great things that could be done in 2023. We're already starting to see some of that change happen before 2023, so ultimately, nothing to be too concerned about. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If you guys want more videos like this, click subscribe. I'll keep you updated and give you guys my analysis on everything happening in wrestling.